So you're thinking about buying or building a brand new home here in the Boise, Idaho area. But is that a smart choice? In this video today, I'm gonna walk you through some of the top pros and cons about buying a new home here versus buying something that's resale and potentially a little bit older. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dolan, your Boise realtor, and these types of decisions and just overall relocating to the Boise area is something that I do with clients every single day, and I absolutely love it. So if you have any specific questions, all of my info is down below. So feel free, reach out. I would love to connect and just figure out how I might be able to help. And if as you're watching this video, you like something, you just enjoy the content or the goal, you learn something that's helpful for you, drop a like, drop a subscribe. That is the best way that I can judge if this actually hit the mark or it was just a complete miss. But the focus of today is we're gonna look at buying or building a new construction home here in the area and why that might be the good call, some of the pros, but also why that might not be the best call for you and your family, some of those cons. The reason that I say buying or building is because with new construction, there's basically two ways that you can end up in a new construction home. First one that we think about the most is that build. So this is going to be choosing the plan, starting with bare dirt, getting everything done, and seeing that whole process from nothing to that finished home. But there's also this side, which is going to be you're actually just buying something that is brand new. Maybe it's in progress and it's not going to be ready for a few months, or it's ready to go and just nobody's lived in it yet. That is still new construction, but that's buying new construction rather than over here actually building it. And we'll get into some of the differences of these in this video, but if you want a full breakdown of what it takes to actually build a home here in the Boise, Idaho area, check out this video that I did. This is an ultimate guide, everything from step one to closing about actually building here in the area. But I always like to start positive. So let's start with the first pro of choosing new construction for your next home. And it's simple, it's new. That is a huge thing. I am somebody who I just like newer things. We've bought new construction for our past two homes. I bought the new car when I had it. My wife bought a new car. We are just the type of people that we put a value on being the first person to own something. Every ding, every issue, every mess up, we know what caused it and we were the ones to blame for it. I really don't like the stress of not knowing what actually happened to this home 10, 15 years ago. Do we know everything? Is there something that people have just been missing for the last decade or two that we're gonna have to deal with in a few years? New construction takes away a lot of that stress. Now, does it mean that it's always going to be perfect? No. Still do a home inspection, still make sure that you're working with a builder that you actually trust. But at the end of the day, having something that's brand new, nobody else has touched, it's shiny, it's clean, that is a massive pro. Now, a con with all of that is because there's a premium on new construction because it is brand new and shiny, is that homes in the new construction realm are just more expensive than a resale home. In general, across the board, you're gonna pay a premium for a new home over what you would pay for a very similar home that may be 5, 10, 20 years older. That's just the way that it works, and it's something that there is value in it being new, so you're gonna pay for that. There's also gonna be some costs where you're gonna see a base price online and it might be $400,000. But what you're not seeing on Zillow when you see that base price is you still have to pick the lot that you're gonna be on. There might be a lot premium for that. Any of those design upgrades, those structural upgrades, or just changes that you wanna make, there's probably gonna be a charge for that. So that cost can start to get a little bit higher than you initially expected. So you just have to go in with the right expectations. But even once you get that final price, new construction homes can be more expensive purely because you still are the one that now is gonna have to potentially pay for more appliances. You're gonna have to pay for window coverings. You might have to get rear landscaping, fencing, all of these other charges you might have to add on after you move in, depending on what your builder provides to you. For the most part, when you're looking at a resale home, they already have blinds installed. They already have all of their appliances in, and you're just having to fill in the ones that they're gonna take with them. They probably already have full landscaping, fencing, sprinklers. It's more of a, hey, this is what you get for your cost. There's not as many hidden costs that you're gonna have to expect to spend within the first few months of owning your home. You might hear all of that and you're like, well, why would I pay that premium? Why would I sign myself up for some of that stress when I could get a home that doesn't have all of that? Why the heck would I do that? And the biggest reason, and this is our second pro, that I have people choose new construction is purely because if you do the build route, you are getting a home that is 100% for you. You're getting to pick everything that goes into that home, the floor plan, the lot, the design options, the paint color. You are the one that's in control of all of that. So when you get to closing, that home was truly built for you and your family specifically. And even if you're going more of the spec quick move-in route, you're still gonna end up in a home that has the latest trends, kind of what is the best style of today. Pretty much every builder that does those spec homes has a professional designer actually pick out the packages. It comes out absolutely gorgeous. The home that I'm in right now was a spec home by our builder, but it actually ended up matching what my wife and I would have chosen for our style about 95% of the way. Of course, you're sacrificing a little bit by doing the spec home because you don't have control over everything, but this is still something where the odds of you moving into a home, seeing the old kind of honey oak cabinets that just look dated, having the ugly red shag carpeting in the bonus room upstairs, those sorts of things will not happen on the new construction side. And that's a huge factor for people, is that they're getting the thing that they think looks the absolute best. Now, let's say that this is your main thing that you're focused on. This is that factor that's really leading you to new construction. So you're probably going to end up on that build side. The next con that we're going to talk about is building a home and moving in from the time that you find the home that you love to actually getting your keys is a much longer time frame and overall process than buying something that's resale. In our valley, a resale home, you're gonna have a closing about 30 to 45 days out, maybe a month or so of searching beforehand, but you can choose to buy a home, get pre-approved, and have your keys within a month, depending on how fast you wanna move. On the new construction side, however, that is pretty hard to do. When you're looking at the new build side, once you pick out the builder, sign contracts, everything is ready to go, you're still gonna be looking at anywhere from 6 months to 12 months or 14 months for that build to come together. Now, a lot of this has to do with the price range. It's going to look at the type of builder that you're looking at, whether it's more of a production builder that builds a ton of homes, has an efficient process that can get you in a little bit quicker, or you're looking at that fully custom thing where architects get involved. There's a little more permitting. Those are going to take a little bit longer. Don't stress about those specifics. Just know, if you're looking at new construction, you need to look ahead of the game. And this is why, if you're somebody that's watched my channel for any sort of extended time, you know when I kind of offer my services, it's always, hey, I don't really care if you're moving 9 days, 9 months, next year, whatever it is. The reason for that is new construction. It's really hard to be way too ahead of the game when you're thinking about relocating and setting up roots, but it is much easier to all of a sudden have a very compressed time frame, and that just limits your options. And the last thing I ever want you to do is settle for something just purely because you didn't think ahead enough. And then looking at the spec side, these homes are also going to have a little bit longer of a lead time. There may be some that are absolutely 100% ready to go. You can move in just like it's a resale home. But a lot of times these are homes that are just under construction. They've already been started. They have their process going, everything's selected, but you still have to wait for the home to be completed. So you might be looking at a 3 to 4 month time frame, but probably not the full 12 months. So overall, this shouldn't be a huge determining factor of whether new construction is right for you or not, but it's something that you have to keep in mind when you're searching, because at some point, you're just gonna be close enough to when you have to be here that it might be off the table. But at that point, you can also choose to rent until your home's built, whatever. There's always options, but just keep that in mind so that you are making the smoothest process possible. Now, our next pro and our next con have to do with kind of a similar thing here, but it's something that I always like to talk about because a lot of times clients assume that it's completely different, or they just don't think about what it might mean for them 9 months down the road. Is when it comes to most builds up here in our area, you are going to lock the price in today when you sign that contract, but you won't actually pay any of that cash except for your initial deposit until closing, which might be a year from now. This means that you don't need that full lump sum amount right now. You're not going to be paying that much. It's very similar to a resale home where you're going to do an earnest money deposit up front, and then you're going to make sure that you have all the cash to close at the end. And the reason that I emphasize most builders is there are some, when we get into the really luxury price points, the fully custom builds, certain builders have different policies. You might have to carry a construction loan, which will have different payments each month. Maybe they just aren't willing to cover the cost of your loan. What a lot of the builders are basically doing is they're saying, hey, we're going to carry the financing until you decide to purchase this home. And at that point, it's kind of baked into our price to assume that risk for you. This can make your life as the buyer so much easier. You don't have to coordinate any of your loan. You just need to be pre-approved or have proof of funds at the beginning, but you're not having to deal with that. You just get to watch your home come to life and then close just like you would on any other home. Now, the reason that this is a pro is because a lot of times when I talk to people, they assume that they need all of that cash ready to go today, but then they're not going to be able to move in for another year. So they're like, what am I paying for up front? That's just not the case, so don't have that expectation. But the true power of this for you as the buyer is if you're in an appreciating market where home prices tend to trickle up, you're locking in a home price today, but you're not actually going to purchase it for a year from now. So let's run a quick example. Let's say that you lock in a home build purchase for $500,000 today. Let's say that home prices appreciate over the next year by 5%. That's around $25,000. Next year, this same home price then would be $525,000. You're still only paying $500,000, so you get some nice instant equity here of around 25 grand without ever setting foot in that home or making a payment. Now, you might have heard all that and you're like, Chase, that doesn't make sense. Why would the builder allow that? Aren't they just losing out on money that they could sell the home for at a higher price? The answer is 100% yes, but this is why it's also a con at the same time. This long time frame and the variability of the prices and interest rates is that risk that they're putting out there that this home appreciates in value over the next year. You also have the same risk that what happens if the market tanks? If the market completely tanks and that $500,000 home is now worth only $450,000, you're still in contract for $500,000. So both you and the builder are kind of working with this exact same risk, and it's just which one is actually going to come out on top. Now, this is where the contracts in each builder are going to be super important, so don't get too into the weeds here, but there are going to be some builders that with the supply chain issues that may happen or that were happening during the pandemic, we started to see more and more clauses of, hey, if the lumber that it takes to build your home triples in price, we're going to have to raise the price of the home to account for that. I'm not a huge fan of these clauses because it takes a lot of certainty and safe non-risk out of your picture. It just makes everything more risky. But if that's what the builder wants to do and that's what the market is calling for, it's something that you just have to know up front. And this all also goes for the interest rate if you're getting a loan. If we're not moving into your home for 12 more months, the interest rate today is the interest rate today. We can make very clear decisions based off that data. When we're looking a year from now, none of us know what the interest rate is actually going to be a year from now. And this is where working with a lender that you absolutely trust, that is good at what they do, can be huge for you. They're the ones that can kind of look at everything, look at the data, what is expected, make their best estimate. When is the best time to lock in your interest rate? Every lender is going to be different. Some of them allow rates to be locked a year in advance. Some of them only allow it to happen about 90 months in advance of closing and completion. But regardless of all of that, the one question that I want to make sure that you ask your lender if you're looking at the new construction side is ask them if they have a free float down. What a lot of lenders will do is they'll say, yeah, no, we're 6 months out from your home being completed. We will lock your rate today at this interest rate that you think is fantastic. What happens if interest rates drop? You are allowed to float down once you get closer to closing one time. As an example, let's say that rates today are 7%, but you're still a year out from your home being built. So your lender locks in your rate today, and that protects you from what happens if rates over the last year, we saw this, jump up to 9-10% for some reason. You're kind of protected on this side. But similar to what can happen with the prices, what happens if rates a year from now are 4%? Are you really going to be stuck at that 7%? That is where that float down is so crucial. If you have one of those and you haven't used it yet, when you get closer to closing or when they're like, this is going to be the best rate that you're going to see, they will adjust your rate down to that 4%. That can make a huge difference on your monthly payment, your state of mind, just everything there. So ask about it. Not every lender does these. Some of them do them with a small fee. Some of them don't allow them to be that far out. Whatever it is, they are all so different. Talk to your lender, but just make sure to ask that question if you're doing anything that is a longer time frame than just a typical purchase. Now, I know that was a lot, so let's leave the financial stuff behind for a little bit, and let's talk about the next pro of buying new homes over some of the resale ones. And it's the fact that all new homes are going to come with some version of a home warranty. In the state of Idaho, builders, they have to give you at least a 1-year home warranty, but each builder does this very differently. They all have their certain policies for what's covered, what's not. Some of them are a little bit better with their warranty than others. Also, there's going to be builders that offer that 1 year, but they might be a 2-year warranty to set themselves apart. They might offer longer warranties on certain components of the house. With your appliances, your HVAC, the manufacturer also is probably going to offer you a 5-year warranty, 10-year warranty, whatever it is for that brand. But knowing that you have this warranty is such a stress reliever when something goes wrong that first year that you're in the home. The builder will come out, they'll make sure that it's all right. They built the home, they want you to be happy, and that's not something that you have on the resale side. If you purchase a home today and then tomorrow after you move in, the water heater dies the first day that you're in the house. I say this because it happened to my wife and I in our first home. Our water heater that was supposed to be working great, it showed no signs of dying and it died within the first month of us moving in. On the resale side, that's just what happens. You're stuck with that, now you have to figure it out. On the new construction side, however, because everything's new, it should be in good shape. If your water heater poops out within a month, they're going to replace it. They'll figure it out. They will make it right. So it's just a nice ease off of your shoulders and makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. And I mentioned it at the very beginning of this video, but inspections on new construction are still absolutely crucial. Mistakes still happen with people that build homes. It's just what it is. But when you're looking at this warranty, something that you're able to do is if you have a 1-year warranty, for example, you'll always hear us talk about a 11-month inspection. This basically means right before that warranty expires, bring that same inspector out, have them look at everything one more time and use those as your warranty fixes. This is a great time for you to make sure there were no hidden issues in your roof, there was nothing in your crawl space. Maybe there's a guest bathroom that you just haven't used at all over the last year and they go in and they flush the toilet and it doesn't work. They will make sure that everything is in tip-top shape and it allows you to move out of that warranty period feeling very good and confident about that home. Now, shifting over to our final con of the day, this is something that is just a downside of new construction is that initial deposit, or what we call your earnest money up here in the area. Think of it as your good faith deposit that you're actually going to purchase the home. The amount of that deposit is most likely going to be drastically higher for new construction homes. Here in our valley, kind of what we see as the typical earnest money amount when we're looking at offers on resale homes is you're going to be around that 1% of the purchase price. This is extremely negotiable. You can offer less, you can offer more, whatever. There's a lot of flexibility on the resale side. When we look at the new home side, however, there just isn't as much flexibility. Instead of that 1%, depending on the builder that you're working with and the level of customization that you are getting, you could have an earnest money requirement that is 2%, 5%, 10%, sometimes all the way up at 20% if it's a fully custom build. And they do this for a few reasons, the biggest of which just being they are building this home for you. You are going to value that home a heck of a lot more than I will because it might not be my style. So you still don't have to purchase and bring the full sum of that purchase price to the table right at the beginning, but you might have to put a little bit more upfront depending on the builder that you choose and what their policies are. And also when we're looking at your earnest money and how you're protected, something to note here, and again, this changes a lot depending on the market, depends on the builder that you choose. There's a lot of variability here, but pretty standardly, the contract that we use on the resale side has a ton of contingencies to protect you as the buyer, your inspection, appraisal, maybe you're selling one of your homes. There's all sorts of things where if you back out for one of those, you get that earnest money back. On the new construction side though, a lot of builders require that this earnest money is non-refundable. So for any reason, if a year from now you just choose this isn't the right home for us, we'd like to back out. That is 100% your prerogative, but you're most likely going to lose that deposit, so that will factor into your decision making a little bit. Don't obsess over this. Don't worry too much about what's in the contracts quite yet. That is something that you will hear much more about if you get to that stage with anyone, but it's one of those expectations that I always like to put out there now because it is very different on the new home side versus the resale. And finally, I always like to wrap up with a positive note, just like I like to start with, but I'm going to talk about the last pro of the day. And it's the fact that if you're buying new, you're buying a home that has the latest tech innovations. It might have the latest building codes. It's going to be the most energy efficient. It's going to have some standards of build that may not existed 10, 20 years ago. Now, before you get too crazy, I can hear my grandfather in the back giving me that quote of, they just don't build them like they used to. There's probably some truth with that. The wood nowadays might not be as durable as it used to be. They use 2x4s instead of 2x6s. Whatever. The building codes and stuff that they have today, there is a reason that they are there. It is much more strict on how you can build a home today than it used to be. So across the board, that's a good thing because you know that your home is going to be of a certain quality. Again, every builder is going to be different. So there are those standard building codes that everybody has to follow, but then this builder might include all of these extra things that are just standard in their builds, whereas this builder might not include any of those. So that's something to keep in mind too when you start to look and compare builders. The price of what you get isn't always the price of what you get, but overall, construction and the process that is required has gotten better over time. When we're looking at the energy efficiency of your home, this is something that nowadays the homes, they're just more energy efficient than they used to be. This comes from everything from the better windows, better insulation. It's going to have better HVAC systems in there. How everything is done is just more efficient. But then also a lot of builders have started doing conditioned crawl spaces where they actually put vapor barrier all the way up your foundation, which just keeps everything a little bit more locked in, protects your home, but again, makes it a little bit more energy efficient as well. And one of the pros with new construction in general is it's new, it's shiny, it's sexy. You get to pick all the design trends, but these sorts of things that aren't quite as sexy, you're not really worried about what your crawl space looks like. These are things that can really impact the longevity and the value of your home. And that's something that you just get the best when you're doing that new construction. So pick a good builder. If you have any questions on which of those builders are actually good, or maybe you listen to this list and you're just like, I have a specific question on this, I don't really understand what the heck you were trying to say, drop me an email down below. I will send you everything that I have on what it actually takes to buy a new construction home, but I can also give you some recommendations on which builders I would look at versus which, to be completely honest, I would probably avoid if you can. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something, so drop a like, drop a subscribe. That is the best way that I can tell that you actually needed this and it resonated with you. But until then, I hope again that you got something from this that helps you push your journey forward just a little bit. So go ahead and watch one of these videos that's popping up so you can continue to learn more about our valley, and I'll see you all on the next one.